Human rights chief says Myanmar security forces may be guilty of genocide against the Rohingya Muslim minority. Zeid Ra'ad Al Hussein, who's previously described the situation as a textbook case of ethnic cleansing, was addressing a special session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva yesterday. Radio New Zealand's former Asia correspondent Charlotte Glennie is now working with Unicef Australia. She's recently returned from Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, where hundreds of thousands of Rohingya refugees have arrived from Myanmar in the last 3 months. Charlotte Glennie is with me now. Morning, Charlotte.
Good morning.
I feel like I should warn people that this might be disturbing, this interview, because you've heard some terrible, terrible stories from some of those people, have you not?
We have, and look, Kim, I was in Cox's Bazar just a few weeks ago. It was utterly, overwhelmingly terrible in terms of what the refugees are facing. The situation on the ground in Cox's Bazar is dire. There is desperate need among the 625,000 people who have poured across the border in just 3 months.
And that's joining an existing population, so there's well over 1 million there now.
Yes, existing population, including the host population, of which there's a couple of 100,000, and they are in the poorest area of Bangladesh, one of the poorest areas of one of the poorest countries in Asia. So the strain on the population around there, the strain on the environment, the strain on the people is absolutely tremendous. Now, of that 600,000 people, 362,000 of them are children. So, I mean, if you just pause and think about that for a moment, that is almost the entire population of the city of Christchurch in children alone who've poured into Bangladesh in these 3 short months. And they came with nothing, and they have so many needs.
Are they all in organised camps now?
Well, they're not organised camps. They're very, very disorganised camps. Aid agencies have been working to make them as organised as possible. So there were some existing camps there. These are that the camps have always had, the conditions have always been terrible in these camps. They were not good before this latest influx of people. They have, as I said, it's in such a poor part of the country. Now the pressure on whatever exists in these camps is just exploded in terms of so the latrine facilities. So I mean, there's one latrine per 100 people. Many of them are overflowing, not working. So, fecal sludge everywhere. So the risk of disease is immense. The risk of an outbreak of cholera. Children are increasingly getting acute watery diarrhea. So UNICEF is working really hard to try and get on top of this, as are other aid organisations. We're vaccinating children and their families against cholera. So over the second largest ever cholera vaccination campaign that's ever taken place. 900,000 people have been vaccinated against cholera. We've vaccinated children against measles, rubella.
Really? That's huge.
Yeah, huge.
How far have these people come? What's the journey between their home and where they are in Bangladesh now?
Well, the journey is, it's a terrible, terrible journey. It's extremely arduous. It takes between a few days and 3 weeks. But the journey, you have to look at why they're making this journey. And they're making this journey because they have suffered extreme violence living in Myanmar. So these are the Rohingya Muslims. They're a minority Muslim population in a majority Buddhist country. They've been persecuted for generations. They've lived in this state of Rakhine for generations. Since the 25th of August, there has been an upsurge in the violence. The stories that children have told me personally and told our staff on the ground about what they suffered and as a result of this violence is terrible. So the violence, they've seen their villages burned. One little 11-year-old boy, a little boy called Shahil, told me about his seeing children being thrown on fires in front of him. The villages burned. Children have seen their mothers, their sisters raped, their fathers having their throats slit. I mean, the atrocities that we have been told about are unspeakable. And so this is what they've suffered. Then they've made this terrible journey while they've been fired at as they've been going across the border. They've been hiding.
Bearing all this in mind, and despite the dreadful circumstances they're in now, do you think the November agreement between Bangladesh and Myanmar will solve the crisis? Will people be inclined to go back?
Well, any return of refugees under international law has to be dignified, safe and voluntary. And so that question as to whether people will be prepared to go back is absolutely critical, and no one should be forced to go back, and that is very much UNICEF's position and United Nations' position. The question has to be asked, what will they go back to? And we know what they've left. We know we've had verified reports. We've seen satellite images of burnt villages. We haven't got access to the whole of Rakhine State. So it's very hard to know exactly what the situation is on the ground there. But you do have to wonder what they would be going back to. But it is great that Bangladesh and Myanmar are talking, and we do need a resolution to this very significant crisis.
Thank you, Charlotte. Charlotte Glennie, who is working with Unicef Australia. It's 14 minutes to 9.
3 Gisborne iwi will soon be given a window into their past with historic audio